home and practice in the dome again. Get out amongst our fan base. Good to just feel the environment in here, and we got some new players too, so that was pretty cool. I think you guys might get a chance to go see the new locker room after this is all said and done. It's outstanding. Man, it's great to have the type of ownership that we have that gives us, everything we need to be successful. So appreciate Mrs. Benson and Dennis Lauscha, all the administration for making that happen. I don't know what's going on here. I'm not tech savvy. I don't know what to do, how to do it. Okay, we're trying to get all these things ironed out.
Dennis, are you going to be handing over any coaching duties, or have you already that we haven't noticed, or any of that kind of stuff that I know a lot of head coaches do this time of year?
In terms of
During the game, Sunday,
yeah, look, we haven't really discussed other than Clint's going to come down on the field. He'll call the game from the field. Joe will handle play calling duties on defense in this game. So yeah, I mean, in terms of this game,
this will be Joe's first time doing it.
he called the Arizona game. He called the second half of the San Francisco game.
Do you prefer the LC being down there with you, or the box?
Listen, I think it's just one of those things. I want to get him down on the field. We've had 2 games with him up in the box. I want to get him down on the field and evaluate it. See how it goes. See what it operates like. And so I think ultimately, what we need to do is we need to do what's best for our players. Number one, and then secondly would be, we see how Clint likes it in terms of his comfortability calling from upstairs or downstairs.
Is that your call or his call?
Well, look, ultimately that becomes my call, and then I just gave you kind of the parameters as to, what we'll base that decision on. So,
Coach Allen, what comes about as far as your decision on what kicker would you keep? Is it total numbers, evaluation, gut feeling?
yeah, look, it's a accumulation of a bunch of observations throughout the course of OTAs, training camp, preseason games. Like all those things are taken into account and that evaluation, and that's really what it'll be. So it's a total evaluation based on everything they've done. PATs, field goals, kickoffs, the whole thing.
With Joe, that was just for preseason, right?
Correct.
Did you Harry?
He's got a personal issue.
You decided playing situations in the game?
No. Well, I haven't told the players anything yet, so I'm not telling you either.
A little bit later, call me.
Yeah, maybe later. Maybe later.
And yes, I saw the Titans are starting out this starting, I think, the 26, but that's better than what you were doing.
Not at all.
Dennis, could you take anything out of this? Looking obviously, we always kind of view the Titans as a team that tough in the trenches. I'm just looking like, I want to say the past 6 or 7 seasons, they were maybe as much as changed because the roster could change with either 1 or 2 as far as their run defense or yards per carry was either 1 or 2 in the NFL if you go back to even 17. Is that some good measuring stick when you're looking at guys in the trenches? And then, like I said, the personnel could change.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, they've got a staff change, so that's part of it, and some personnel differences. But I would say this: I would say just looking at them on tape, there's a lot of similarities in terms of their toughness and their physicality in the way that they play. So, I think really just like all these preseason games. I mean, there's an opportunity to get an evaluation, and you're trying to take into account, you know, who's in the game for us, who's in the game for them, you know, and trying to judge some things based on that, which sometimes can be a little bit skewed. But yeah, I do think this is a tough physical team, and I think, you know, we'll be able to see a few things for sure.
Bringing Andrew Dell back, was that kind of pace recovered from the ACL last year? Like, how did that kind of work out?
Yeah, well, look, he's a guy that we've known about and had planned on at least bringing him back and working him out and seeing where he was at. We did that a couple of days ago, and you know, I think he's a guy that can play some snaps in this game because he's going to know, you know, what to do in terms of he's been in this scheme defensively. We'll be able to get some snaps out of him in the kicking game. He's always been a valuable kicking game player for us. So I think it was just making sure he was totally healthy and then, you know, put him out there and seeing what he can do.
What are some of the things that he's done that's made y'all's relationship with him so strong? I mean, I know he's gotten a couple of opportunities to swing back after injuries.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think he's played well in the kicking game for us. And he's been a guy that shows up every day, works hard, practices hard, prepares extremely well, and he's been productive in the kicking game. And so those are good qualities to have.
What about Landon Young inside left guard?
Well, probably a lot of the same things that I would like about him, you know, at tackle, and that I think he's a big, you know, physical player, and I think he fits, you know, what we're trying to do offensively. For as big as he is, he's a pretty good foot athlete, you know. So I think really probably the biggest thing we're just trying to do is figure out exactly who the best five are, and trying to put those guys in position so that we can have success. I think our running game has looked pretty solid the last, you know, few days of practice, so it's been good to see.
How good of a grasp do you feel like you and the staff have on 53 right now?
I would say pretty good grasp. I think there's still, you know, a few things that we're looking to see. I think there's still some positions that we're waiting to see who's going to jump up there and be the starter. And so we're going to let that continue to play out. I think there's, you know, still a few spots on the roster that, you know, we're trying to let play out. There's a few decisions to be made in terms of, you know, who are viable options on the practice squad. And so, yeah, I'd say we got a pretty good handle on a lot of it, and yet there's still some things that have yet to be decided.
Just to follow up on that, kind of go way back here. I remember like in '06, I think like Shanley or Simino was added like right before the season. Is there an option that you could be potentially making moves?
Yeah, look, there's always that option. You know, when you go through training camp, you're not only evaluating your own roster and the 90 guys that you have here in training camp, we're evaluating the 90 guys that are on everybody else's roster too. And nobody knows who's going to be available, whether that be via trade or someone gets released, you know. So I think you're always looking outside the building to see if there's other options that we feel like can help us. And this year won't be any different.
When you mentioned right tackle and left guard is kind of, you know, spots that are still a little bit open. Do you need to see guys with the first team to evaluate that, or can you take like second team reps and evaluate them the same way if they aren't playing to the guy they might next to?
Well, look, I think all those things come into play, right? I mean, you know, who they're playing with, who they're playing against. You know, you try to incorporate all those things, but, you know, at the end of the day, let's take the left guard or right tackle, all right? I just want to see him block the freaking dude across from him. And it's really not a whole lot more complicated than that, you know. Now, if the guy across from him is me, then it's probably not as weighted. You know, if it's, you know, Chase Young or somebody like that, then I'd probably feel a little bit better about that.
What have you seen from Cedric Wilson during his camp?
Well, look, the number one thing that stands out to me with Cedric Wilson is his ability and willingness to block in the run game. I think that's been outstanding. I think his leadership in that room has been really good for the room. And look, I think I've seen him, you know, in particular, you know, in practice, you know, make some plays when opportunities have presented themselves to him. I think he's you know, kind of the type of veteran that I think our guys need. You know, we got a lot of young, talented players, and yet, you know, I think they need some veteran leadership, and I think he provides that.
The only thing was the 49ers game is out third receiver with Chris and Cedric. Has he done anything to catch your eye, or was that just?
Yeah, I mean, I like some things that I've seen out of Bub. I mean, obviously he missed, you know, some time there in the middle of camp, so I think this will be an important game for him to go out and play well. Okay, guys, thanks.